Do pesticides affect your fertility? Do they increase the risk of miscarriage or pregnancy loss? Hey guys, Dr. Wesley Davis coming to you from Ogden, Utah. I'm an OBGYN here and I do YouTube videos on infertility, pregnancy, and other women's health issues. We're going to talk to you today about an important study that has just been published in the Journal of the American Medical Association from Mass General Hospital at Harvard University. This is the first study of its kind that shows a possible association between the trace pesticides that are found on typical fruits and vegetables and pregnancy outcomes. It's interesting to know that about 90% of the population has detectable pesticides in their bloodstream. These mostly come from standard fruits and vegetables. And when I say standard, I mean basically things that are not organic. And I've never been like a huge organic person, although I have kind of moved that way later in my life because I do worry a little bit about the things that are placed on our food supply. So these fruits and vegetables are generally things that you would think would be good for you, and we definitely recommend people to eat in large quantities as part of a healthy diet. There are trace amounts of pesticides that can be found on any type of fruit or vegetable that is not organic. We call those conventionally grown fruits and vegetables, so in other words, not organic. There may be growing concern that the amount of pesticides that are allowable by the Food and Drug Administration are actually too high, particularly for vulnerable groups like pregnant moms or moms who are trying to get pregnant. There are studies in rodent models, so rats and mice typically are what they study in the lab. There are studies in rodent models that show that exposure to pesticides in what are thought to be typically safe levels actually do reduce the number of live pups born, and those are little baby mice. It reduces the number of live pups born, and also there is cellular evidence to demonstrate that these pesticides are involved in what's called programmed cell death or apoptosis. So there's research data that would indicate this on an animal model, and as it turns out, rodent models are pretty reliable when you start talking about human embryo safety. So I do think this means something and we need to pay attention. There's also evidence from occupational safety data that women who work in the commercial fruit and vegetable processing or harvesting or growing industry have higher risks of adverse pregnancy outcomes, infertility, pregnancy loss, things like that. However, until this study was published, there really wasn't any good data that would specifically tell us what the potential risks are when specifically studying people who were being treated for infertility. This study from Massachusetts General Hospital, which again is Harvard University, pretty good school, has been studying women since about 2006 prospectively. So in other words, going forward, they're watching them as they go forward. And one of the factors they looked at was the amount of fruits and vegetables that were eaten every day. They used their dietary reporting to estimate the amount of pesticide exposure that the patients were getting from fruits and vegetables. It's important to understand they didn't actually measure blood levels of any pesticides. This was based on food recall, so there's definitely some bias potential for error in these studies. However, it's been the tool that they use to estimate their dietary intake of fruits and vegetables has been validated, and interestingly has been compared to other studies where they actually linked it to blood levels of pesticides in the past. So we feel like it's a pretty reasonable proxy to estimate what their pesticide exposure is. Basically what they showed was the higher the intake of fruits and vegetables that would be associated with these residue pesticides, the higher the intake, the lower the chance of getting pregnant and the lower the chance of staying pregnant. They looked at a number called total pregnancy loss. That would include things like miscarriage all the way up to stillbirths. And they showed that in the lowest exposed group, the risk was only about 7%. And in the highest exposed group, it was 30%. And that was a statistically significant trend. And they could show it for each increasing level. For each increasing level of potential exposure, there was a higher risk of pregnancy loss. The other interesting thing was when they looked at women who had essentially replaced one serving per day of conventional fruits and vegetables with organic fruits and vegetables, they found an 80% higher rate of pregnancy and an almost 90% higher rate of live birth. So that is significant. One serving per day less of conventional fruits and vegetables replaced with organic fruits and vegetables dramatically increase your chance of getting pregnant and staying pregnant. And that's huge. I think it's really important to understand that there definitely are studies that would indicate that a healthy diet is a really important part of getting pregnant and of staying pregnant. And I'm definitely not saying don't eat fruits and vegetables. However, this is the first study that would indicate that conventionally grown fruits and vegetables actually are associated with lower rates of fertility and lower rates of live birth. So I do think in this case it may be worth your money and effort to seek out organically grown fruits and vegetables and replace as many of the conventionally grown fruits and vegetables in your diet as you can. There's no reason to think there's any downside to doing that. They may cost a little more, but if you're talking about you're trying to get pregnant, the health of your baby, I think that it's well worth the investment. Obviously, this is one study. It's yet to be duplicated by anybody else. This is a brand new study that was just published. It is in a very good journal. It's Journal of the American Medical Association. The study was done at obviously a very reputable academic institution. Maybe you've heard of it, Harvard. Pretty good place. So I think that, at a minimum, we say take this as a word of caution. Maybe focus more on organic fruits and veggies. Try to eliminate some of the conventionally grown fruits and veggies in your diet. It can only help. There's no evidence to think it's going to hurt anything. So I hope that information is helpful to you guys. If you have questions, please put them in the comments below. If you like what you're hearing, if you're interested in what I have to say, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and have a great day.